Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Islam in Life with me, Reza Ghazim. Many a good hanging prevents a bad marriage. So said Feste the Fool in the Shakespearean play Twelfth Night. The Islamic perspective is obviously very different, but the multiple notions of marriage that are competing to impact on the individual and communities vary from the foolish to the spiritual.
One of the recognized and indisputable commandments of Islam is that of marriage, the sacred union that takes place only between a man and a woman. In relation to this revered bond, there are many verses of the Noble Quran and countless examples that encourage marriage for any single man or woman, of any age or background. This is not only limited to the young brothers and sisters who have never been married and are looking for their life mate, but even those who have been through divorce have also been encouraged to remarry and to complete their faith. Allah says in the Holy Quran, "Marry the single people from among you and the righteous slaves and slave girls. If you are poor, Allah will make you rich through His favor, and Allah is bountiful, all-knowing." Allah and His representatives have given us the best rules for a great marital life. They have explained every minute detail. When we do not observe these rights, do not follow the rules or cross our limits, life turns boring, and marital life falls prey to differences leading to failure.
We're honored to be joined by our esteemed guest, Professor Tariq Ramadan, to discuss all of these issues. Welcome to the program, Professor.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. I wanted to start off by asking you, this idea of marriage, why is it so important within Islam?
I think it's important to understand and to start our discussion about marriage with the conception of life and human being in Islam and the spiritual journey that we are asked to experience. Because at the end of the day, what is important is to understand the very nature of who we are. So when we speak about faith, in God, that we are believer, everything in Islam has to do with stability and having a balanced life between your mind and your body, between your heart and your senses, whatever. It's all about وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ. So set the balance with equity. This is what is said in the Quran. Marriage, it's to understand that as much as you need God with your heart, in order to have this physical stability, you have to be married. So it's something which is very essential. It's nothing, there is nothing in Islam like, priesthood in Catholicism saying you don't have to be married. Just for us, from within Islam, you can't be stable if you don't get the physical dimension of you being fulfilled and having a blossoming physical life. But we have principles, and the marriage is coming with principles. Understanding that it's half of your religion to have this physical stability and to understand that nothing in your body is bad. It's all based on doing it, experiencing it, based on principles. So you have to manage, you have to control, but you have to experience it. So marriage has to do with love, it has to do with physical dimension, it has to do also with intellectual complementarity between you and your wife and the husband.
A lot of ideas that you've talked about, and perhaps some that we'll pick up again, but one of the things that was also mentioned at the start was this idea that in this, through marriage, you create a stronger society. What's the connection? What's the cause and effect?
That's very true. Why? Because this is the first space where you enter into social life when you are an adult, and then you have, of course, you have it when you are a child with your family. At one point, you are creating a new family, a couple, and this is the starting point of everything. Based on what? First, I need you and you need me in order to fulfill your being. So you are never half of me. You don't have this in Islam. It's 1 + 1. It's not you are my half or the best half of myself. No, we are not. We should understand that in order to be two, we need to fulfill something which is our individual understanding, our autonomy. These are two autonomous beings coming together. it's very important because in the collective life, you cannot deny your individuality entering into a community. That's essential because at the end of the day, you come back to God alone. So we need to have this. So within the couple, this is the starting point. And then based on what? On communication. Communication. So جَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. He created, he put between the two of you mawadda, which is affection, and rahma, which is mercy. But this rahma, it's coming from what? This love, this affection, it's coming from what? Communication. And we have it with the Prophet, peace be upon him, that he was communicating. So in the first social space, communication, it's essential. You have a second thing which is important. It's not enough to communicate. It's all about love. So as much as you are taught to love God, you need to learn to love your husband and to love your wife. It's about love. So this is also something which is essential. Islam is not only a marriage is not only a contract and with no love. You know, we are two Muslims and we are two believers and that's enough. Affection, mawadda, wa rahma, mercy. And mawadda is to connect us with our qualities. And rahma is to hold and to be patient with our weaknesses. So the two words are connected to two dimensions of our being. And then plus, you need also to understand that you have responsibility because parents are going to have responsibility and you have to be committed with their children. So the three things that we have within the couple are three qualities that are required to have a community, a wider community afterward.
You mentioned one of the things being in there about a contract between a man and a woman, and this idea that these marriages have to have affection and all of this. When you have something starting from a contract, it sounds cold, it sounds impersonal. How can something that has such a start, lead or have any hope of going in that direction?
That's a very important question because many people, when they start, it's all about love, so forget about law. No. Because it starts with love, you better protect yourself of whatever could come afterward. And we know now, with so many divorces, with people, they are struggling, and even everything about love is lost, and everything about law is coming in a sometimes very nasty way. So Islam is saying, in the name of your faith, in the name of even your love between the two of you, set the record clear. Come with the principles and be clear on what are the rules on which you are going to carry on together. So love is good, but to forget about the contract, the frame, it could be it's not the way your spiritual life has to be experienced and performed. So it's very important to get this. It's coming and to have an agreement on things that are very simple. The contract, it's not, it's not detailed, but you can. And it's always good for women to know their rights and to come with some of the requirements and some of the conditions. So there are conditions, and you can add conditions. And it's between two adults, which is also very important because it's said within the contract you get the understanding that it's saying something about women's rights, for example, that this is the way I want, for example, for a woman who worked who studied all her life and she wants, for example, to work. This is something that they have to agree on it before even they get married for the future, and that's also very important. So it's binding for both of them, and it's very important to get the sense that don't forget love when you come with rules and conditions of contract, but don't forget the conditions of a contract when you love and you think that love is going to make it. It could be for a specific period of time, but you better have a clear relationship from the starting point.
So love with protection from the law.
Yes, but both. I would say I would say that sometimes the best protection of your love is also to be clear with the law, with the rules. This is what we agreed upon, and we know how human beings are, and sometimes how men could be with their. Some people are using religion when it comes for their rights. And here the contract is also about your obligations. So we better have this clearly put, and I would say that that's something which is very important. Many women are feeling that they are discriminated within marriage. because very often they don't know about their rights. So it's very important for us to teach this in order for them to know what could be part of a contract, in order to have it clear, for example, when it comes to social life, when it comes with the children, when it comes to even, you know, the way the husband is going to live and to deal with his family.
One other aspect that comes into it, that, okay, perhaps for the sake of argument, accept that point that you have to have the law, the contract and so on, and have the love and try and develop that however you do. But then how do you develop the spirituality when you're starting again from the contract, something that is supposed to safeguard you physically here? How does that encourage spirituality?
Exactly the same way that you are experiencing the fact that, for example, you have strict rules in your rituals and in the way you deal with God. At the end of the day, our relationship with God is an agreement. It's a contract. الميثاق الأصلي, God said, you have a contract. You are indebted towards me, and this is Him talking to us and telling us, be careful, you will come back to me. So there is a contract. There is al-mithaq, which is the contract, the trust that He gave us. The second is that what we need to get is love. The highest level, in kuntum tuhibbun Allah, try to love God. And through what? Rules. 5 times a day you pray, you fast, you go to Friday prayer. All this is about rules. So the point is not to avoid rules to get love, is now how in your daily practice you try to get this, you nurture this love towards God through the principle. It's exactly the same when it comes to marriage. It's that you have to get it clear, and then you start this journey of knowing your partner, your husband or your wife, communicating, understanding that the rules are not going to be enough. Love is about communication. Love is about mutual understanding. Love is about mercy and mutual mercy. So to have it clear at the beginning help you to having deep on your way. So clear as to the rules, deep as to the quest.
Okay, lots of interesting points. We do like to keep this show as interactive as possible and really value your opinion. Here's what you sent us this week.
This week we asked, why is marriage so important in Islam? Sabia from Germany said, marriage keeps you away from illegitimate desires and keeps you focused on family, which is the only way to attain happiness and satisfaction in the long run. Iman from Denmark said, we human beings have a great need for companionship, and marriage gives us this deep, soulful companionship within the correct boundaries. And Mariam from India said, marriage is challenging and forces you to look at your every action from another pair of eyes. This allows you to become humble and change yourself to become a better person.
Without marriage, whatever you do, you are not fulfilling the responsibilities. What is the legal way?
Strengthens society and removes the fitna that goes on if you're not in a marriage. So it's a very stabilizing relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has recommended for all of us.
So I think the marriage is a very good way, an Islamic way, to move forward your life.
Marriage is the legal way to make a family, to make a good society, to make a good nation.
That's all the comments we have for this week. If you'd like to have your views featured in the show, be sure to follow us on Facebook or join us on Twitter.
Lots of interesting points being made and emphasizing the institution of marriage within the Islamic context. But, this idea, one of the points that was being made was this idea about fitna being stopped as a result of this. I mean, are we really overemphasizing this thing within, this institution of marriage?
No, in principle, it's true. Of course, we need this to protect ourselves. And what I was saying at the beginning is that it gives us a sentimental stability and a physical stability. That's true. It's protecting you. You know, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُمْ. They are a protection. So it's like dressing and having your body and your being is protected. So this is in the Quran, and this is true. What is very important, as you are saying, is that we should not pretend and we should not think that it's going to be easy within the marriage if there is communication, if there is love, and if the space it's open is going to protect you. But this is where we also need to stop being idealistic. We are living very difficult times, and the temptations outside are very real. So this is where we need also to understand in which way we have to be involved in the process, in which way we are making it something where it's going to give you protection. So the only contract is not a protection in itself. We need to look, for example, at the Prophet's life, peace be upon him, the way he was communicating, the way he was showing affection, the way he was respecting, the way he was listening to his wife. So this is also something which is important. So when this communication is here, when this mutual understanding, when there is compassion and love, this is where you are protected. So Hunna libasun, they are addressed, they are protecting you, men and women, means all the physical, sentimental and cultural dimensions that we need to be taking very seriously.
And in terms of this institution of marriage and how it impacts on you as an individual, how does that change you? Does it change people?
It should, because this is where you are learning that you are not on your own, and you have to deal with generosity and to listen. So it's another being, it's another viewpoint, it's another sensitivity, it's another history, it's another story, it's another understanding, and this is why it's going to change you. It's not going to change you if only you enter into this and you impose your views and you think, as some are sometimes getting it, that I'm the man, for example, and I should be followed. No. Even within marriage, even within the couple, there is shura. So we have to discuss. It's a decision, or they are decisions that we have to take together. So it's changing you, because this is where you are going in the closest space, a social space, where you are going to build something. You are going to have children with another being. This is where you have to listen. You have to get this compassion, but also this decentered yourself from your viewpoint to get an understanding. And when you are a man, just to have a female understanding, and the opposite is also right, it's something that is changing you. Of course it's changing us. So I would say here that we need to get this right in our understanding, and through the process to learn from the other. The other is a mirror, and this mirror is projecting onto us another understanding and another vision of who we are. So it's a journey, and it's going together somewhere. Both of us, we are going somewhere, and we're trying to serve him. And what he's asking us to do is, then you have to educate your children. If you have children, that's very important. How are you going? What are the priorities? What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with them? This is the social space that you are creating with your husband or with your wife.
Within this institution of marriage, obviously, you know, we talked about love disappearing and perhaps the law taking over, divorce happening.
Yeah.
And then what happens at that point? People just feel that it hasn't worked for them. It isn't for them. You know, sometimes one experience, sometimes two experiences, and this is it, that's enough. So enough is enough, isn't it?
It could be, it could be. Now, it's true that, as we said, for your stability is always good to have this space. And the other with you to help you to be strong enough to be protected from the world. And it could happen that, for example, you go through a divorce. It could happen, and this is not, you are not wrong or guilty. We should be clear on this, that abghadul halal, that in Islam, and once again, it's not the same as in the Catholic tradition, that of course it could happen that at one point it's not this is not the right person, it's not going to work because of many, many different reasons. With this,
if I can interrupt there, one of the things that comes up with regards to this is that when you get married and you say the vows and the words, whatever, then that's the point at which Allah puts the mawaddah in your heart. So how come it goes away?
No, I think it's important to understand that it could happen, and you have here to go through. It's very important not to underestimate what could happen within a couple, and this is why we are saying to men, be careful with the words that you are using, be careful with the way you are going to call for this, and you know that in Islam it's possible for a woman to ask the same. So this could happen, and we need to be, as much as we are asking people, master your love with a reasonable understanding of the rules, master the conflicting time and what could come out of your heart when you don't want the other and when you are stopping and when you are divorcing. It's all about control, and it's all about self-control. Having said that, now it could happen, and it's always good for somebody to say, okay, it was not the right husband, it was not the right wife, I should try again. But as you said, 1, 2, 3 times it could happen, and then if at one point you feel that it's not for me, as long as it might not be for you, but you are able on your own to live by your principles and you find a stability, no one has the right to impose onto you, you have to get married. No, sometimes you are more stable alone than you are with the wrong person.
Interesting point. Perhaps it raises more questions, but we're running out of time. But so one question I want to bring into this discussion is this: when you've got domestic violence taking place, and there is a feeling that staying in the marriage is more important, and allowing that to happen in a sense, for the sake of the children, for example. What would you say to that, those people that have that mentality, those women who have that mentality?
I would say that the principle should be clear. Domestic violence is not Islamic, and we have to say no. So the principle comes first. Now, when you are experiencing this, and for the sake of your children, you are protecting them by accepting that, there is a mistake here, because you are not protecting your children if, for example, your children are seeing you being humiliated and not knowing what to do with it. So if you want to help them, help yourself. Help yourself by saying the principles are the principles, and then we need to try to find a solution. So it's possible sometimes to help the husband to move, to change, to reform his attitude, and not to accept this. So you better do something with the environment than only to try to protect and to be humiliated in a way, which is, this humiliation is in fact what could destroy without you seeing it, your own children. So the principle first, and try to find a way to get out of it with dignity, because marriage has to do with love and mutual respect and dignity, and it starts by not accepting to forget the principles.
Very important point. Marriage in Islam is seen as a central mechanism from which to build a strong society. The contract in the marriage is there to stabilize what could perhaps be an unbridled direction of travel. The team in a marriage is made up of different types of components, but the idea of having critical friends that are able to say to each other what others may find difficult to say effectively is powerful. The success is ultimately dependent on the attitudes of the participants. Foolish attitudes will lead to disasters, or an alternative could be spiritual fulfillment. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I would like to thank Professor Tariq Ramadan for joining us, and I thank you all for watching. Until next time, goodbye.